Medicine has always been a little experimental.
And every lesson has a body count.
Welcome, Cadaver Crew.
Get your dark little minds right and settle in.
Class is in session, and the cadaver is already on the table.
I'm B,
And I'm Sam.
and this is the Cadaver's Lessons.
All right. So I guess before we get started with all of this, we should start with a medical disclaimer. You don't want anyone getting too crazy in here and taking this for more than what it is, which is just a podcast. So before we get started, a quick reminder. Although one of our hosts is a medical professional, this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. We discuss the history of medicine, not your personal medical situation. Nothing you hear on this show should ever be taken as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Some of the information discussed may be incorrect or become outdated over time. We do our best to stay current with medical knowledge, but medicine changes quickly, as we all know. Additionally, because we do not work in every specific field we discuss, there may be times when we misspeak or misinterpret information. We're all human, we're going to do our very best to prevent those things. Every medical case is unique, and your health decision should always be made in consultation with your own qualified healthcare professional. If you have any questions or concerns about your health, please reach out to a licensed provider who can give you guidance and base it on your individual needs.
So let's get started about the most important people. Us. So my name's B. I'm a true crime junkie, naturally curious, fascinated by the why and the psychology and sociology behind the decisions that are made and how we've come to be the way that we are now. Really interested in like human stories and the moral gray areas, the darker side of history, and love digging into cases that feel unbelievable or maybe you don't believe are real but have actually happened. I'm definitely a pessimist. I'm a glass half empty kind of person. So that's why my co-host here is so great to balance me out. Miss Pessimist over here. Optimist. I'm the pessimist.
So my name's Sam, and I would say you'll find over time in this podcast that we probably couldn't be more different in things that we like. Bernie's very much a soft science gal, into psychology, sociology, things like that, and I am hard science. Like there is an answer to everything, even if we haven't learned it yet. I am a physician assistant in the emergency room, which is a great time. And in my time throughout being in the emergency room and being in rotations, I've seen some truly unhinged things, which you'll hear some of the stories on this podcast. I'm very science driven, very skeptical of things that are not based in science, and very much believe in evidence based medicine. So you'll hear a lot of like literature and what we are currently studying in medicine that makes the thing so far true. I'm constantly asking like, does this actually work? Do we have something better right now? Because I think we all need to stay up to date in medicine. In the emergency room, I definitely live in the intersection of modern medicine and chaos, because we are constantly changing what we're doing, and we all thrive in the chaos of the ER, which is great. And then B lives in more of a gray zone. She likes to find the gray. I am black and white. There's a right and a wrong. There's an answer and an incorrect answer. So I think you guys will see a lot of different things in our podcast.
Yeah, so that comes to like, why did we even decide to do this in the first place? Really, we just wanted to build something together and capture our interests and be able to share them with all of you. So we wanted to take medicine and that hard factual side and combine it with history, but also curiosity and skepticism, and then a little true crime, creepy, maybe some paranormal in there. We'll see. Plus clinical reality, and that's that black and white.
Perfect. And we just plan for our worlds and the worlds of history and modern medicine to collide in this podcast, and I hope you guys can feel that too.
So what is the Cadaver's Lessons?
Yeah.
Really, what we're going to do is we're going to take a deep dive into the history of medical practices and maybe some rare or interesting medical diagnoses that have been forgotten in the past. And we're going to figure out how and why those started. What was the society like? What were the people like? What were the decisions made to come up with those kinds of things? And then what survived that history to turn it into modern medicine?
Yeah. You'll notice that some of our episodes are going to lean more clinical, and you're going to see that more in the things that are still being used today, because I'll have a lot of clinical relevance, goodness gracious, to give you guys. And then some are going to lean more true crime, which even though they're historically factual, it's going to feel true crime-ish because you're like, I'm
Oh, yeah.
sorry, we did what? With who? Like,
Mhm.
yeah. So we'll see. But many of the episodes are going to do both. Before we get started, we do very much want to acknowledge that medicine has not been perfect over time. The way that we have learned about medicine has primarily been through trial and error. And oftentimes, trials have been on oppressed people, people of smaller populations that don't have representation. And we acknowledge that in our podcast. And every day, medicine's getting better in the sense of this, but not as quickly as we would like it to, as we all know. But understand that as we're going through this and looking at the history of this medicine, we're going to run into those exact same roadblocks because of the trials and who they did them on and what we actually have research on in certain populations. But we know that marginalized communities often lack that representation, the consent, or the protection that we're given to different populations. And we really wanted to take a step back and acknowledge that for a minute. At the same time, we want to respect medical progress and know that if a lot of these things hadn't been done, we might still be drilling in people's skulls or something. I don't know, on a
We'll see.
daily, yeah. And recognize that medicine is still evolving. Like I said, my practice changes all the time, and I'm still pretty new to this. So we as a medical community are working, but we very much understand the history of this and that there's a lot of progress to this.
Yeah. Lots of progress to be made, lots of progress that we've had done, but, you know, at what cost?
Lots of cost.
Yeah. And so this is what our episodes are going to look like moving forward. So our main episode, which is kind of what we talked about earlier, where we're going to learn about some history or some diagnoses that have come up in the past and then their current medical relevance. That episode is going to drop every Monday. And then the other thing that we're going to do is have a pretty awesome companion episode that drops on Friday. And those are going to have to do with historical cases. So, on the main episode, we're going to talk about history, origin, and where these things come from. But in Cadaver Files, that we're going to drop on Fridays, are going to be famous patients, famous outbreaks, maybe some scandals, medical disasters, all the darker sides of medicine, or, how that's related to the original podcast that drops on Monday, that episode, and the kind of the darker side and the true crimey side of that story is going to drop on Fridays.
Yeah. And I think we'll see I mean, we're going to talk about a lot about these real world consequences, but I think when we're like giving it a name, a patient's name
Mm-hmm.
of these historical cases, we'll be able to recognize those consequences a little bit more and how it either helped us advance or was a devastating failure, which we're going to find a lot in historical medicine. So who should be listening to this podcast? Obviously you,
Everyone.
because you already are. Come on. Um, Definitely from like Bernie's side is true crime lovers.
Yeah.
From my side is like medical professionals or those striving to be medical professionals in any sense of it. I stand by that we need every single level of the medical field in order for this to work. And anyway, sensor shape. Anyways, shape or form.
Shape or
Shape
form.
or form. There we go. Um, History nerds, and then anyone who's ever Googled, like, do we still do this? How is that legal? Who approved this? And the answer is probably no one approved it,
Nobody.
and they just did it.
So let's give you a little idea of what's to come. Some upcoming episodes that we're going to talk about some really creepy shit are trepidation and a really awesome case about Amanda Fielding. Then we're also going to deep dive into lobotomies and talk about some really awful, horrible cases associated with those. Then electric shock therapy, maybe, and many, many more treatments that seemed to make sense at the time until they didn't make sense anymore. So we're going to look through a lot of different things, and we're also always taking feedback. So, if you have an idea, let us know.
Yeah. So this podcast is only possible with people like you listening and helping us out and spreading the word. This is a dream of ours that we've actually had planned out for over a year now in the
Mhm.
making. And we're really excited to be doing it. So you can help by telling your friends, sharing on social media, leaving reviews, and commenting and engaging. If there's something you want us to do different, like Bernie said, if there's something that you want us to add into a case file, we can absolutely do that. Just let us know. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the cadavers, plural, underscore lessons, plural. And then there is a sweet thing called Buy Me a Coffee, where if you really like our show and you want to donate and help us out and pay for the just the babysitting fee for today, maybe I don't know, you can absolutely do it. It's a one-time thing, nothing you have to subscribe to, overtime payments, and so it's just buymeacoffee.com/the_cadavers_lessons, and all of this is going to be provided in the show notes in case you're really interested and want to follow along. That's it. That's it
Yeah.
for today.
Yeah, with that, we hope you keep listening and join us on the darker side of medicine history.
Yeah. Well, class is dismissed.
Stay safe
Stay curious.
and don't try these things at home.
Unless you own a bone saw. Bye, guys.
Bye.